Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Interesting piece of information here for my German friends, and not only. And that is, I have an article coming from the Russians, evil guys, right? Telling us who gets the most from the German welfare programs. And we find out that it is the Ukrainians. So someone is paying for that. Can you guess who? Hey, my German friends, why don't you go and take a look in the mirror and then you got the answer. As long as you have a job. If you don't have a job or if you work for the government, then it's not you. If you work for a private company or you own your own private company, it's you. Okay, it's you. So let me show you. Russia Today. Ukrainians are Germany's biggest foreign welfare recipient group, media claims. People from Ukraine account for almost 30% of all foreigners getting welfare payments in Germany, Bild has reported. Ukrainians residing in Germany have emerged as the biggest grouping of foreign nationals relying on government welfare payments, the tabloid Bild reported on Saturday, citing data from the German Federal Employment Agency, BA. Out of 5.5 million welfare recipients in Germany, only about half are German citizens, the media outlet reported. As of March 2023, almost 2.6 million people getting, and I'm quoting, standard benefits from the state were foreigners, according to BA's Migration Monitor program. Ukrainians constitute the largest proportion of non-German welfare recipients, amounting to about 30% of their number. Syrians form the second largest group, accounting for another 20%. According to government data, as many as 65.6% of Ukrainians living in Germany, or 707,700 people, receive financial aid from the taxpayers. They say government. Thank you very much. More than half of all Syrians residing in the country, as well as 47.1% of Afghans living there, are also dependent on the German welfare system. Bild reported, adding that among Germans themselves, 5.3% are on welfare. People entitled to welfare payments receive an average of 502 euros, which is $554 for a single person, and 451 euros or $497 per person for a couple each week. You got that? Let's go to Germany. Someone's paying a free meal. You hear this? They got $554 for a person, for a single person. It's unbelievable. And if you're alone, I guess. So calculate that each week, that's $2,000, $2,200 in your hand. Who makes $2,200 in your hand wherever you guys live? That's more than an average income here in the United States of America. $2,200 a month. And if you are a two people, you got let's say 500. So that would be about $4,000 for two people. Jesus fucking Christ. Persons with kids get an additional 318 euros, which is $350, and 420 euros, which is $463, depending on the child's age. The state, the taxpayers, are also pays for the rent, heating, and education of eligible persons. So that's on top of this. So let's say I'm alone. No, let's say I'm with someone. And we got $4,000 in our hand. $2,000, and plus someone pays for the rent and heating and education. Let's say we don't have education because we're smart, but you don't want to work. Do I qualify? I think so. Unbelievable, man. Asylum seekers and people with the so-called, I'm quoting, tolerated state status could get between 369 euros, which is $407, and 410 euros, which is $452 weekly, depending on the circumstances, plus an additional between 278 euros and 364 euros, or $306 to $401 per child if applicable. Only those who are officially granted asylum in Germany could then apply for standard benefits. Ripping off people. This rule does not affect Ukrainians though. Under the existing regulations, they do not apply for asylum and are automatically entitled to regular welfare payments, according to Bild. Berlin allocated a total of 43.8 billion euros, or 48, almost $50 billion for welfare payments and associated costs within the year's budget, the media. So that goes to some instead of going to building roads or maintaining whatever, giving to schools. The existing scheme sparked criticism from Carsten Linnemann, the General Secretary of Germany's biggest opposition party, the Christian Democratic Union. The conservative politician demanded a, quote-unquote, fundamental overhaul of the welfare system, which he said should be more focused on immigrants' integration into the German labor market. And that's going to suppress the labor market. So the German people will have to compete with these guys that have nothing, and they can afford bidding for jobs at a lower price. Like, as I said many times, when I showed up in the United States of America, I said, okay, I want to be a teacher, let's say. And you got teachers here, let's say $25 an hour. I said I could work for 15. And they would and I would be better than the, domestic teachers. So I would have worked for 15. They would have fired a $25 an hour teacher, American, and would hire me. Okay? And then the American teacher would sell her boat, will sell her house, will not go in vacations, eat less, don't drink, don't smoke, to compete with me. But you know what they did? They lobby. So when you come here, you can't be a teacher just like that. They want you to go back to college. And after you get back to college, then you get a degree and you compete with them. And even then, not having anything, I get an apartment for, let's say, $500, a studio shitty apartment. I get let's say, $2,000 paid cash, crappy car, and I don't have all the expensive the American teacher will have, let's be 35, with kids. I will still get their job. When they're gonna say I have $25 an hour, I say I'm working for $17 an hour, and the cost benefit for the schools would be now he's got a diploma. What are we gonna do? Get out. Or I get a job of someone, an older teacher who, let's say he's 50 or something. He makes or she makes, let's say, $35 an hour, and I say I will do it for $25, $10 off per hour. Out, in. But you got the unions protecting. What are you protecting? Do you think there's going to be the same thing here? But the problem is, if I would have gone as a laborer, I could have taken someone else's job in a minute, because those guys are not in the union, or they don't have lobbies. You come here as a dentist. Let's say I know 2 examples of dentists and 3 examples of doctors coming from Romania with the degrees. They were doctors over there. They come here. No, you can't. You can't. You have to start over. So they started over. That's how they protect their little thing here. But they don't protect the truck drivers. They don't protect the, I don't know how you call this, the people at the store, cashiers. They're not protected. Only those guys are protected. Very nice, right? You say, well, I thought it's like fair competition, isn't it? Remember, it's not really like that. But here, these guys come with nothing. They live 10 families in a house. They pay for rent $50 a month if they pay. They drive and they commute, and they will take your job. Well, don't believe me? That's what happened. I was eager to work for much less than anybody else around me. And the problem is I didn't have anything. They had houses, they had boats, they have cars, they have telephones, they have other stuff, they have a lifestyle. I didn't have shit. so I could go as low as possible. They could not compete. And the company would definitely hire me, especially if I just showed with an American diploma and still not have anything. So yeah, get them in. So they're gonna depress the payment, your standard of living, but get more. Maybe that's why you understand why you have university professors and doctors and intellectuals saying, yes, leave the immigrants come in. Of course, because when you go to a college, they have a very, very limited number of doctors, professors, teachers, whatever. Professor, not professor, because you have to do a PhD and all that to be a professor, master degree and then PhD, which it's a little bit more than high school, just so you know. If you don't believe me, well, why don't you look into their curriculum? So, nevertheless, I'm angry because I can see these guys protecting their thing. Therefore, there will be a very limited number of how do you call it? The demand is going to be the same. That's the problem. Demand is going to be the same. The supply is going to be limited. As I said, I can make a truck driver a millionaire overnight if it's going to be the only one in the whole county all of a sudden. But hey, not protected, anyone can be a truck. Yeah, but it's easier to be a truck driver than a doctor. Yes, it is. It is easier. But do you think that only the 15 doctors that graduate are the only ones capable of being doctors? I don't think so. The same with the PhDs. They think that only the ones that we have. So why not? Why is limited the number of people who graduate? Who limits that? Maybe the American Medical Association, lobbying and all that. Just look into it. Why don't we have more doctors? We need them. Because someone narrows down like this. And they say, yeah, let them in. With my income of $250,000 a year, I'm very benevolent. I want anybody to come in. When you tell them, well, you got a big house, why don't you take about 5 immigrant families? You just cross the border, the Rio Grande, and then put your mouth where your cock is. I mean, where your money is. Why don't you do that? I pay taxes. They always hide. Why? They don't want to be affected at all. But the truck drivers, the laborers, the pipe layers, those guys work in the department stores, their lives will be targeted, not mine. So I can be, yes, let them come in and eat cake. Oh my, let's go. We have a shortage of skilled workers. Why do you have that? Because you suck. You suck as a government in Germany, and you created this lack of skilled workers. It's not because they're not available. Your education system sucks. That's why. It's your fault. Oh, so now you're going to import people? Why? Because you screwed up your population. And some 2.5 million unemployed at the same time, as well as high level of immigration in the social system. He said, demanding the government do more to get as many people as possible out of the social assistance system and into the job market. No, why don't you do like this? Why don't you train your people, which are not tards, and you improve the education system and you raise the bar, and then you're going to have a labor force and you're going to be efficient. You can have it when you say, well, we need outside to come here people. That means something failed here. It's not like you have such a economic boom that you really need, more people. No, you don't have your native ones, your domestic ones. Why? Because you hook them up with your educational system. And you have anyway, it's enough. Let's move on. A recent survey conducted jointly by several German research institutions and the Federal Migration Agency showed that only 18% of Ukrainian refugees in Germany had found a job. At the same time, 44% of them said they would like to stay in the country. The number of those willing to remain has grown by 5 percentage points, up to 39% in poll conducted last summer. Germany has accepted more than 1 million Ukrainians since the outbreak of the conflict a year and a half ago. The large influx of Ukrainians placed a strain on the EU's biggest economy. In October 2022, 23 municipal leaders across the country warned that local authorities had exhausted all resources to aid new arrivals. In February 2023, Interior Minister Nancy Faeser called for a for a more even distribution of Ukrainian refugees among the EU member states. Well, the thing is like this. The politicians will not care. For them, those are future voters. And the more you give them, the more they would vote for you. That's what happens. There are people over there who are eyeballing this as an advantage. And at the expense of whom? Of others. And you know what tell the other ones? Well, if you hire these ones, they will produce things that you're going to have it cheaper. They're not going to tell you, and you're going to lose your job, and you have to compete with these guys for lower wages, and then your lifestyle is going to be decreasing. No, they don't tell you that. And I'm talking about the big majority. I'm not talking about the doctors, and I'm not picking on doctors in this. This is the lowest hanging fruit that I can grab. The doctors, the PhD professors, and the problem is I dealt with them. And good for them. This is the situation. But I don't think, to say, yeah, let them come in. Why? Because you're protected. That doesn't sound to me very... And you have the politicians who know this kind of things, or if they don't know, they should not be in a leadership position, that accept this kind of things. Well, what should we do? We should not accept them? Well, maybe you could have avoided the war by doing what you said you will do, and that is, remember, Germany was a guarantor, signatory guarantor, together with France, of the Minsk agreements. Remember that? So the fact that these guys are at war, you are responsible as well. Why? Because your little guarantor failed, because the Ukrainians said, we're not going to comply. Even Merkel, the former chancellor, said, we just gave them time to arm themselves. The same with, what's his name? Francois, what's his name? The former Hollande. François Hollande, the former president of France, the same. He said, these two were the guarantors. And they said, well, we just gave the Ukrainian time to arm themselves. So they didn't even mean to implement them. That is negotiating in bad faith. So Russia got burnt. So you say, you can't do this, Russia, because you're unfair. You're talking? Maybe you should look in the mirror. And the same with the guys in 2014. The guys who overthrew the legitimate government of Ukraine. You should look in the mirror, guys, and see, oh, no, it's unprovoked, really. And many others who expanded NATO eastward. All those guys should come over here, and then we talk about Hague Court, International Criminal Court, and all that. And then at the end of it, we get Putin, and we get Zelensky, and so on. After we get the Clintons, after we get, what's his name, Tony Blair, after we get these guys, okay? And then we get them too. But let's start with chronologically, all right? And we're going to take Bush as well. He is one of the first ones, and so on. So, screw your countries. That's what you do. I'm talking about the Western countries. You've been screwing your countries. And, well, for the benefit of some of us. Anyway, but some of us who are productive members of society, some of them are not. Because many reasons. I know a lot of people here in America, Romanians from Romania, who just stay on welfare. So they come from Romania, they snuck in here, and instead of working and, being productive members of the society, they still went on welfare. I pay them through my taxes, and you pay them with the taxes. What is that? What would you do? What I would do? Get a slingshot and send them back. How many years have you been here? 7 years already? 10 years, and you couldn't find a job? Why do you think that people are supposed to give you something? Well, if you're stupid, that's the answer. If you're stupid. And yes, you are stupid. And now me too. I know people personally, my friends, personally, that look only for this kind of perks, how to get from the government something from the productive members of society. That means those guys that should be benefiting and should be rewarded, they are taking down, and you start working and say, wait a minute, I've been working like crazy for 20 years and I'm here instead of being here. Why? Because all this was given to these guys. You're screwing your countries. That's what you do. And I'm part of it right now too. So thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.